the best interest of the child is paramount. And this is reflected in the legislation of the Juvenile Justice Act, where the concern of the child and their interest and protection is of paramount importance.
Keep a fire burning red in a Joshua representing of a comes hard here. You know. Big up Kidaki, Buxton massive. Hey Babylon boy, you go on like you know, like come son. Red. Comes hard your son. You burn this wine when no want you shine. The tree of life, them no want you climb, cause them heart no kind. Comes I say them heart no kind. Buxton massive. Kidaki. Red that.
Never joke, never joke, never joke. Oh, money never, money never, money never, money never, money never, money. I know what you conniving, money, money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. You can keep your conniving, money. When you've been knocked for a bum, in a bills there'll be money. Now because your money down, you come with conniving money. When you had your pocket full, in a bills there'll be money. Now because your money down, you hustle for tell me money. Yes, money never, money never, money, money never, money, money. Now do what you conniving money. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. Neighbor, neighbor, joker. That's all the money that me walk for. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. A 2 pound note and a kill that piece. This is all the money that me walk for.
I said money, neighbor,
Money, neighbor, money. Money, neighbor, money. Money, I don't want you conniving money.
oh Joseph.
Guyana and Guyanese, at home and abroad. Tune in the Guyanese Morning Time, hosted by Kadaki Amsterdam, where the sun always shines. Guyanese Morning Time, the people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people call it Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We rise up early morning watching Comes TV, where wisdom and knowledge, yes, it is the key. Exposing corruptions over land and sea, where the wicked politicians they try to trick me. Guyana is a land for everybody. With 6 races should live in harmony. Is one set of people getting aisle money. Is one set of people doing the thievery. Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. This is a program that you all can see. Sharing your views and your integrity. Like it, comment and share it all around. Pass it to your neighbor, safe and sound. A sad situation going on in this town. The voice of the people is getting trampled down. Out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, with Jah as ordained me to sing. I sing Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, fooling the people. You promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. Stop fooling people. You're promoting evil. Stop lying to the people. You are a part of the cycle. I say Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again. We got Breakford, Bork and Mark Benchcop. David Hines and Kadaki Amsterdam. Sherrod Duncan, Nigel London. Normal Brown and Gavin Matthews. Big up Paslow, both people governor. Simona Brooms, Robin Simpson. Hampton Green and Winston Jordan. And yes, we can go right on and on. Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again, Guyanese Morning Time. The people calling Guyanese Morning Time. Rhythm, rhythm, Guyanese Morning Time. Intelligence and knowledge run the front line. We go again.
The relatives and friends of young Wyndham Bacchus, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of our in Boston, they deserve justice. The family, the relatives and friends of Peter Headley, they deserve justice. And so when we say that Guyana is an apartheid state, we have the evidence to show.
Hey fans, it's karaoke and oldies night this and every Thursday at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton. Dance to the magical songs of yesteryear by popular DJs and Camps Audio. Admission is free. Come out, let's make memories at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton North. You can get meat anywhere, but for the best cuts of chicken, beef, pork, mutton, and lots more, check out T&W Harris Butcher Shop located in the East Rimeveld Market Meat Section. Call us on 609-7168, 641-4494. Ask for Rastaman. T&W Harris Butcher Shop for the best in fresh cut meats and lots more.
Behaving like them ain't got no feelings. The strike done coming there done. But me slipper still up on the ground. We come far now, we ain't backing down. We did only ask what we working for. Now Ali come and say we getting none. But me slipper still up on the ground. We come far now, we ain't backing down.
It is Wednesday. It is the 20th of March in the year 2024. Welcome to the program. I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. This morning is, like I said, is Wednesday. It's usual that we have Dr. Hines on Wednesday. And so he's definitely in the house. Dr. Hines, morning. I think I'm muted. Yes, Dr. Hines, morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. How you been?
Thank you very much. I'm doing fine, thanks.
All right, so it's another Wednesday. It's another week. It's another day in dear land of Guyana. And so we have a lot of things that we certainly can and will talk about. First up, because it's maybe one of the freshest thing, well, not the freshest thing around. Everybody wants to know what is happening with the teachers strike and well, the teachers and the government's fallout, if I call it that, over the collective bargaining and so on. I noticed, I was informed that the GTU went back to the courts and that matter is scheduled to be heard today. There were some claims and so on that were made in relation to the government's representatives breaching agreements that were made. That's some of the matters that I understand that were raised in the court matter. I know you most likely you've been following that closely because we've always been commenting on it. What's your latest information and where do you see this going?
Well, the media is reporting today that yesterday the judge ordered the Ministry of Education to produce evidence that it was in conversation with the union on salary issues. If viewers would remember, one of the arguments made by the government was that the teachers had no need to go on strike because they were in conversation, they were talking. They were talking. And the teachers union said they were talking, but they were not talking about salaries. They were not talking about salaries. And so that matter came up yesterday. And the judge asked the Ministry of Education to produce evidence, whether it's in the minutes of the meeting or whatever, to produce evidence that indeed they were talking to the union about salaries. The Attorney General danced around and said that there was no need for the Ministry of Education to produce evidence because the union would have that information and so on. But however, he was overruled by the judge, and the judge asked them to produce that information today. So that was what happened yesterday. The judge also asked the lawyer for the Ministry of Education, the lawyer for the union, asked the lawyer to withdraw some of the relief that he was asking the court for. The judge ruled that some of those reliefs, if not all of them, were outside the remit of the court. So that's where things are. The matter is supposed to kick off today. As usual, the government is stalling. Mr. Nandalal argued that he did not realize that the matter was supposed to be heard that early, and that he would have to scramble now to get witness and so on, and witnesses and so on and so forth. Clearly, from what we heard yesterday, the government is not prepared for this matter. So we'll see what happens today.
Is it that the government is not prepared, or they're not prepared to, well, I think I understand what you're saying, not prepared, in that they really and truly wouldn't want this matter ventilated in court. Is that what I'm understanding?
No, they did not expect the matter to be ventilated in court. As usual, they expected the court to roll over and give them victories, you know? And so I think they're caught by the steadfastness of the judge. Because as I said, Nandalal argued against producing the evidence, because of course there's no evidence that they were talking to the teachers about salaries. They were talking about all the other 20-odd things that it said the union gave them, but not salaries, not collective bargaining. And so there's no evidence. And so he was trying to get out of it. And the judge overruled him. And the judge said the matter will proceed today. And so he's saying that he has to scramble around to find witnesses to cross-examine, and he didn't expect the matter. So clearly, the government apparently doesn't have a case. And what they expected was that the judge was going to rule in their favor, but apparently it's not working out that way.
All right, so for the benefit of viewers, let me inform you basically, or remind you, that the GTU, Ghana Trade Union, GTUC, right? I have to make that differentiation. Ghana Trade Union Congress had actually made an approach to the court to join the matter, which was filed by the Ghana Teachers Union, and that was ruled on. And so GTU is now a part of this matter, as far as I understand.
GTUC.
Yes, GTUC, right? Trade Union Congress.
Yeah, and they're represented by Roslyn Ford.
Right, and the recent approach to the court on the mediation matter was also addressed yesterday, and that was joined with what we call the substantive matter. And so today, yes, the court is going to be dealing with that matter. Basically, I would say as one now, combined into one hearing, and so the court is going to be dealing with all of those issues. Like Akai said the judge asked, I am interpreting it as both sides to produce the evidence that financial matters were discussed. And my understanding is that they had up to midnight last night to produce that evidence. Right? There's still the naysayers out there, and I like to address it ever so often. Are the teachers still winning? Or let me ask a bigger question. Is this just a victory for the teachers, or it's a national victory? Because I interpret it as them winning.
Yeah, perhaps we should withdraw the word victory, because I think that is what is confusing the matter. That is what is confusing the matter, because people see victory as a final outcome, and there's no final outcome yet. So let us for now withdraw the word victory or withdraw the word winning, since people see those things in absolutist terms. Have the teachers advanced their case? Yes, they have advanced their case. The case is being heard. The government, of course, is pushing back at every twist and turn, and every time they push back, the teachers' union is pushing back against them. And if you were to ask which side has the ascendancy as we speak today, I would argue strongly it is the teachers' union that has the ascendancy right now.
Very well. I asked about whether, well, you say don't talk about victory, let's talk about ascendancy. The current situation, is it
let me address that. Is it a victory for the teachers or victory for the country? And I think that's a very, very important question. That what is being played out here is the larger question of collective bargaining. Because as everyone knows, collective bargaining has been ditched by this government, and some would argue the coalition government itself did not honor the principle of collective bargaining. So what this case is about the larger question of collective bargaining. That's one. Second, it's about the question of strike. What happens when workers are on strike? I think it's Roysdale Ford on Politics 101. They say that there is no legislation that protects. There's no legislation that protects striking workers. So that when workers go on strike, the principle of no work, no pay kicks in. There's no legislation to stop that. And as the lawyers have argued, when workers go on strike, in effect, the status quo remains, because they're not staying away from work to go and party. They're not staying away from work to go and do their own thing. They're staying away from work in order to improve their conditions. And so the principle of no work, no pay doesn't apply there. This is what the lawyers for the teachers are arguing. Traditionally, when workers have gone on strike, the understanding was that you go on strike, you're not going to be paid. Right? So that's the second issue that I think is happening here. When workers go on strike, is the status quo still in play? Meaning, can they retain their salaries? Or is the status quo not in play, and so therefore their salaries are on the line? Can the government take punitive action whenever workers, and for that matter, not just the government, all employers, can employers take punitive action when workers go on strike? That issue is also on the table. So you're correct. There's some large issues here. One, the issue of collective bargaining, and the judge seems to be zero in on that. When he says, well, produce the evidence. that you have been talking about salaries. And if the government cannot produce the evidence that they have been talking about salaries, the logic therefore is that the teachers' case is strong, that they went on strike for good reason. The logic then follows, if they went on strike for good reason, then the status quo holds and you cannot take away their salaries. That's where my head is going, where I see the judge is angling. Because if the government is saying we were talking about salaries, then the strike is indeed illegal, because you are in the process of collective bargaining. And if you are in the process of collective bargaining, then you can't go on strike and say there's no collective bargaining. So if the judge finds that they were not talking about salaries, then it seems to me that that justifies the strike. And then the question then is, if the strike is justified, can the employer take punitive action against the workers? So I think there's some big questions that are hanging on this case. And I think either side, this is going to the CCJ.
With that analysis, Dr. Hines, you know, there was a time when I used to say I like to be the devil's advocate. With that analysis, I dare say then the teachers have a tenuous case in terms of the salaries and status quo holding. Because if the ministry, let's say, can produce 1 minute of a meeting where salaries were discussed, is that evidence enough?
No, that is not evidence. I mean, salaries is salaries. We are sitting down to discuss salaries. That is what collective bargaining is about. Is that we are sitting down to discuss salaries.
There's some things I recognize, which I want to talk about here in terms of the court's approach and where things may be going. One of the things you mentioned is precedent. The precedent is that when you strike, you don't get paid, right? That is precedent. The court usually weighs heavily on precedents. I also want.
Well, I don't think the court has weighed in on that matter. So I don't
I'm not saying that the court has weighed in on that matter. I'm saying traditionally or generally.
No, you mean tradition, not precedents.
No. I'm saying traditionally, universally, the courts pay attention to precedents. What was the norm before? What would usually happen, right? And so we have a precedent of if you don't work, you don't get paid. Right? As in, you strike, you don't get paid. The other thing I am looking at is the implications, let's say, going forward. The rulings of this court, like we agree, would have serious, what I want to say, national implications to labor and labor relations. Right? Because it can upturn that whole apple cart, if I can call it that, of people not getting paid because they went and strike for just reasons. Is the well, I'm asking you to be in the mind here. We like to talk about activists, judge, and so on and so forth. You think the judge is willing to take that step out on the limb?
Well, one cannot preempt what the judge is willing to do. I don't want to go there. I can only talk about what the judge has done thus far. And given what the judge has done thus far, the judge is prepared to take this matter seriously. The judge has indicated that this matter is a serious enough matter. In the first place, he set up a mediation. That didn't work out. Now, they've gone back, yes, bundled the matter, but more than that, he is putting the government under pressure to prove its case. I think the burden, what the judge is doing here is putting the burden on the government, on the employer, to prove the case. So where the judge goes in the long run, I don't know. I wouldn't want to predict where the judge is going. But what I'm saying, given what I've seen thus far, it is clear that the judge is taking this matter seriously and that he recognizes that there are some gaps in the administration of justice when it comes to labor relations.
And do you believe that the government as it is perhaps afraid of these implications which I just identified in terms of what will happen in terms of labor and labor relations going forward?
Well, I don't think this government is afraid of anything.
Are they perhaps regretful that they allowed it to get this far?
No, I don't think this government has that kind of bone in them. This is a very crude and crass government, and it is not driven by reason. And the question you're asking there is whether, in fact, it's a reasonable government that is prepared to recognize that we made a mistake. No, I don't think that is how this government thinks.
Crude and crass. The insistence that, because I saw a post from the AG that says the courts will never rule in favor of the teachers being paid while they were on strike, because a strike, according to, I'm paraphrasing here, a strike is intended to harm the employer. And no court will rule that employees are entitled to reward for attempts to harm the employers. Is this just a situation of the government believe that teachers genuinely wanted to harm them, or they just are dogmatic about not wanting to pay more, and that adds up in the long list of what I would call abuses on the national populace?
Well, we have to view the term there, harm, in judicial terms, in legal terms, which is not necessarily the same as usage in normal terms. Look, the employer in this instance is the government. And there is a qualitative difference between a private employer and the government. The employer here is the government. The government of any country is bound to look after the welfare of all its citizens. And so therefore the claim of harm when the citizens are pushing back against the government, I do not think apply when it comes to the government. So what Nandalal is doing there is using the broad brush, and is not taking into consideration that the employer here is the government. And the employees are what we call workers who are strategically placed in the society. That is, a teacher is not a clerk working on Regent Street, you know, or Water Street. A teacher here is someone who's molding a society, and the employer of the teacher is the government. And so therefore, the question of the teachers wanting to harm the government does not apply in my humble estimation.
Thank you. It's 7 hours 44. That's 60 minutes today at the clock hour. I think it's an opportune time for us to take a break and pay some bills. We got no bills to pay, so y'all got to bear with us, you know. Let me remind you that on the 1st of August, there's going to be the Buxton Friendship Business and Cultural Expo, temporarily set for, or tentatively, that's the word. Why am I saying temporary all the time? Tentatively set for Dorset Lawns. If you are into cottage industry and so on, you can make contact on 682-7981 and let us see how we can facilitate your participation. Good. I want to also remind you that tomorrow is Thursday, and it's Oldies night in Buxton tomorrow. Hey fans, it's karaoke and oldies night this and every Thursday at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton. Dance to the magical songs of yesteryear by popular DJs and Camps Audio. Admission is free. Come out. Let's make memories at Club Twilight, Sideline Dam, Buxton North. And if you are in the US or if you are right here in Ghana and you're looking for immigration services, I encourage you to check in with Mark Benchcop. Benchcop Consultancy, Immigration Consultancy, is available to help you with citizenship matters, visitors visa, visa denials, asylum cases, delayed petitions, family-based visa, adjustment of status, derivative citizenship, and revoked visas based on overstay or board, etc. You can call Benchcop Consultancy Immigration Law on 917-714-1082 or email him. Drop an email at markbenchcop@yahoo.com. You're tuned to the Guyanese Morning Time. We're chatting with Dr. David Hines, Professor David Hines, on, like I usually say, the issues in apartheid Ghana. Good. A dogmatic government, a government that doesn't accept its errors. We saw that government, Dr. Hines, appearing before the United Nations. As some people would say, they were receiving a grilling on all of the allegations of excesses and poor governance and so on made against them. You are aware of the answers, I'm sure of the answers. Let's have your assessment on the reaction, if I can call it that, of the government's representatives to the questioning at the United Nations there, the hearing. Whether or not they're honest and sensible answers.
Well, first of all, I think the government was taken by surprise. You see, I think I mentioned more than once, must have been about a year ago or probably a little bit more, in one of my chats with Brother UC. And he said to me, you know, this government is going to choke. They're biting off too much and they're going to choke. And the wisdom of the old man, the sage, is really at play. Look, this government, as I have explained over and over again, is a particular type. It's a post-regime change government in a newly emerging petro state. Let me repeat that. It's a post-regime change government in a new and emerging petro state. So we have never seen a government of this type in Guyana before. And it takes some time to wrap our minds around this variation of post-colonial government in Guyana and the Caribbean. We have never had this type before. Post-regime change in an emerging petro state. And everything that comes with that. And one of the things that comes with it is a government that is a runaway train that is not sensitive to the things that other governments have been sensitive to. I lived under the Burnham government, and the Burnham government wasn't easy when it comes to dealing with opponents and so on. But that government was very concerned about how it was seen overseas. Very concerned. Because one of the strengths of the Burnham government was indeed its foreign policy. Its foreign policy as a third worldist government, its foreign policy on African liberation, its foreign policy on regional integration. So it had an exemplary foreign policy. And so therefore it was concerned about how it was seen overseas in the international community. We do not see that with this government. This government doesn't care. Well, up till now, it doesn't care what its supporters think. It doesn't care what its opponents think. It doesn't care what the international community thinks. And so, therefore, when it is subjected to the type of intense and informed grilling by no less an organization like the United Nations, it is taken aback. It doesn't know what to do, because it has not fitted into its modus operandi defense of its image overseas. It doesn't know how to do it, because it didn't figure that it had to do it. It didn't figure that it had to do it. Remember, every time there have been forays into the international community, the government has responded harshly. The last time, we are talking late last year when Rick Fordberg organized that conference in Washington, we saw the government responded to it. It was partly a viciousness and a way of delegitimizing the concerns of the opposition in the international community. Well, I think it now realizes that the opposition, whether it's the political parties, whether it's the civil society groups, they have, over the last 2 or 3 years, without us realizing it, they have made their case, and it has penetrated into very important institutions in the world, such as the United Nations. And so now when the United Nations, and not who is doing the questioning, it's the US representative on the committee. That is very important. The government is unprepared. It is unprepared. We saw when they went to the UN the other day, and they sent Waldron, and she did a terrible job at defending the government. They went at the IPADG, made representation at the United Nations. Well, this has now gone to another level, the United Nations Human Rights Commission, and they're zeroing in on corruption, on discrimination, on extrajudicial killings, and so forth. And the government is woefully unprepared to respond to it. So I think they've been caught with more than their pants down, because they've taken this bullish attitude that we don't have to worry about anything. The government, the opposition doesn't have evidence. They don't have any evidence. They don't have the data. And so therefore, they're not prepared for the kind of informed grilling that they're getting from this committee. And I have to say, they're looking bad. I'm refraining from using the word victory or using the word winning, but if one looks and studies what one is seeing coming out of this committee, I think the opposition, the broad opposition, can take a bow.
Thank you for that. You corrected me there, because I saw Harvey Norton saying that in response to the grilling and so on, that he has always remained in contact with the UN, and the work he has done since he became leader of the opposition, or since he became leader of the PNC, has seen a lot of, I would say, reconnection with international agencies. Those relationships were absent. Any further comment on that?
And I can tell you, these programs are watched by all and sundry. These programs are watched widely. So yes, the opposition leader is correct in taking a bow, but I think these programs that we do in the open market, in the open space, it's open to all and sundry. I am surprised. I am surprised at some of the persons who are tuning into this program. I get called quite regularly to give interviews on what's happening in Guyana, on Caribbean issues, and for example on Haiti. I'm inundated with comments on Haiti, and when I ask the journalists and others, how did you get to make contact with me? They refer to my program. They refer to Politics 101. So these programs are watched by wide cross sections of people. Years ago, something, I can't remember what was the issue in Guyana. But I got a call from the State Department. And I asked the young lady, how did you get in touch with me? And she said, my job when I come in to work every day is to monitor Guyana. That's my job. I monitor Guyana, so I know what everybody is saying about Guyana. I read all the newspapers, I read the comments, and so on. And I can't remember what the issue was. I can't remember, no, I can't recall now. But that opened my eyes. And so these programs are monitored. I get calls from Latin America on the Venezuelan issue and so on and so forth. Newspapers and so on in Brazil and Peru and all these places all the time. And I always make it my duty to ask, how did you find me? And they refer to my program. So don't estimate what collectively we have done these last 3.5 years.
Right. So in the interest of education, let me say, because I spoke about presidents also, I see Winston Jordan, former Minister of Finance under the EP and UFC government. The coalition, let me say that, indicated that in 2018, when teachers were on strike, they were paid. So the teachers were paid for the strike days in 2018. And so that establishes also another precedent. So one precedent is you strike, you don't get paid. But the most recent, perhaps, because the coalition government is...
that is why I was advising you not to use the word precedents.
Right.
Because there's no precedents, right? There's no precedents. Generally, what employers generally do is that they don't pay workers when they're on strike, generally. But like, as Mr. Jordan pointed out, under the APNU government, there was an exception. And so the argument I'm making here is that unlike private employers, and this is where I think the judge might be angling, unlike private employers, the government as an employer is going to be held by a different standard.
Very well.
That's it. And that's why I was trying to tell not to use the word precedents, but to say that there is a general tradition, especially among private employers in the private sector, not to pay workers when they don't work. But I think this judge is kind of winking that the government could be held by a different, or should be held by a different standard.
All right, so
so that piece of information from Minister Jordan is very important, and I can't get into Mr. Jordan's mind, but I can surmise that the reason he and his government did not go in the opposite direction, meaning the direction that this government has gone by, is that there were other factors at work. And that is one of the factors I'm surmising has to do with the fact that they were the government of the people. And in a sense, when you are going to take away money from people, workers, because government workers, you're in effect harming, let me use Nandlal term, you're in fact harming your workers who are also the citizens whose welfare you are bound by the Constitution to look after. So governments are in a different bracket by themselves when it comes to this issue of industrial relations. You see? And as I said, I can't get in Jordan's mind. And I'm assuming that Jordan would have been pivotal in advising his government whether they should deduct pay from the workers or don't deduct. And I think it has to do with factors such as the government and its role in the society, which is different from the private sector. And the other factor, again, I'm not getting into Jordan's head. Those workers, those teachers, most of them would have voted for the very government. Let me stretch that logic to this present government. They, I think, are driven by the fact that those teachers, most of them didn't vote for them.
Or assume not to.
And that those who voted for them and are striking is a way of punishing them. So in a sense, the government reaching for this tradition of not paying workers when they're in strike is loaded with considerations beyond industrial relations.
Thank you. We have to go back there. And so we're back to the UN dwelling of Guyana, Guyana's representatives on the human rights abuse and all other things. You pointed out the fact that it was the American representative that was leading the questioning. Should that, quote unquote, give Guyanese hope that the US is about to...
No.
Let me finish. You haven't even allowed me to complete my
right,
question. Sorry. Right? Give Guyanese hope that the US is about to let the PPP sail on its own bottom?
No.
Or is just another sideshow?
My answer is no.
Is it just another sideshow?
No, it's not a sideshow. But the way you pose the question, my answer has to be no. Is it significant that it is the US representative that is leading? Yes, it's
What's
significant.
the significance?
Should we read into that is a signal of the change in US attitude to the government? No.
What therefore is the significance?
The significance is that it is the United States.
A perceived ally of the PPP.
The most powerful country on earth.
All right. Thank you.
I'm not going to the ally. It is the most powerful country on earth. And whenever they take a certain position, negative or positive, you pay attention to it. Should you overread into it that it means that there is some definitive shift? No. Don't do that. Do not do that. Because American foreign policy is complex. It's a complex. A lot of pieces have to be put together. But it is significant.
Should the PPP
that the
be worried?
United States, the PPP, as I pointed out, this PPP government is a different animal. The things that normal governments worry about, this PPP government doesn't worry about. It's a different animal.
So, Dr. Hines, the question is not if they are worried, it is if they should be worried.
My answer is that they are not worried about anything. And my answer remains the same. You can't use the standard for rational, reasonable government. The assumptions you make about rational, reasonable governments, you cannot make that assumption about governments like this present government.
Thank you. No, it's 5 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. I've received a lot of complaints to you on a statement you made recently on one of the Politics 101 program. To put it in a nutshell, I was informed that you were there defending Dr. Jagan. I think in the interest of clarity and understanding, and so that your viewers get the perspective, if I can call it that, the context in which you made those statements. Do you care to explain basically your statements towards in relation to the use of the
I shouldn't have to explain. I shouldn't have to explain.
You shouldn't have to, but in the interest
I should not have to explain. But listen. I'm in sympathy with what's happening in our country. I'm in sympathy what's happening with opposition supporters. I am one of them. I'm in sympathy what's happening to Black people. I'm one of them. And I think this government, in some instances, is driving our people to frustration, which is not a good thing. And part of that frustration is that our supporters don't want to hear anything from us that is positive about people from the PPP or aligned to the PPP. It's a very dangerous development, but I understand it because that's where the government has driven our people, that they don't want to hear even the suggestion of anything positive about the PPP and PPP leaders. All right, and because of that, I will remind what I said. I said Dr. Jagan never used the term Apanjat. Nowhere in no newspaper, no book has that man ever been quoted as using the term Apanjat. There is a man named Daniel Debedin, who was an Indian candidate in the 1953 election, who uttered that term, Apanjat. Now, I went on to say that although Dr. Jagan didn't use the term Apanjat, he benefited from Apanjat politics. Apanjat politics is vote for your own, vote for your kind. And Dr. Jagan benefited from it. Dr. Jagan and the PPP employed the strategy of Apanjat. They used the concept of Apanjat. In effect, that is worse than using the term. Because what I was trying to say is, let us be factual. He never used the term, but he employed the strategy and benefit. I said that. But I understand why our people would hear that, take out the part that offends them, and don't look at the other part. In fact, what I was saying was Jagan did worse than using the term Apanjat. He used the strategy of Apanjat. But I understand why the brothers and sisters didn't hear that. Because our people are in this heightened sense of anxiety about how the PPP is beating up on them. And so they don't want to hear anything positive. So the minute you say something that appears positive, even really what I was doing wasn't really saying anything positive. I was saying the man did more. He didn't use the term. He used the strategy of Apanjat. And that is why I was saying that I shouldn't have to explain anything, because it's there. It's there in the record what I said. But I understand where our people are. You know, I don't like it. I don't like the fact that we have reached the point where we can't say anything positive about our opponents. The PPP guys don't say anything positive about me, and that's okay with me, but I don't want to use them as my aspiration. I don't want to use their attitude as to inform my behavior. If they don't say anything positive about me, it doesn't mean that I will follow in like kind. I will not follow in like kind because I will not allow the PPP to be my example of how to behave politically. For years, my mentor, your mentor, Brother U.C. Guyanese, in 1961, he put forward a proposal for joint premiership between Dr. Jagan and Mr. Burnham. And he said, if Dr. Jagan does not agree, then we should go to partition. For decades, in fact, up to now, people conveniently leave out the joint premiership and said, Guyanese call for partition. And it took, I mean, I have to take some credit here because about 20 years ago, I decided to wage a fight against that. And I was able to reinsert Guyanese's statement, joint premiership with partition as a last resort. As a last resort. And I was able to re-inject that into the conversation. And some people have shifted since then and start saying joint premiership and not partition. And so in politics, people are misrepresented all the time. And I have heard that. I have heard people say Jagan call for Apple. I don't like it when they do it to Guyana, and I don't like it when they do it to Jagan, and I don't like it when they do it to Burnham. I'm clear about that. All right? So it's not about defending Jagan. It's about defending the principle of truth. The man never uttered the term. But I went further to say, although he did not utter the term, he used the strategy. But of course, people didn't hear that or conveniently didn't hear that I said he used the strategy with his words. And, you know, that I'm defending. I defend Jagan. Jagan gets enough people to defend him.
Thanks for the clarity. And it's important that we clarify these things. I see many of the viewers are acknowledging the clarity now, and thank you for it. Leon Sanders said our clients never give a sucker a fair break. And a sucker a fair break. If he's a sucker, kick him while he's down.
I understand. And like I said, I understand where our people are. I understand where our people are, but you know, there is life beyond today. You know, and tomorrow Burnham would be misrepresented. And bet you bottom dollar that Hines is going to defend Burnham. All right? And the next day, Guyana will be misrepresented. Bet you bottom down, I'm going to say no. But I do understand when they're done, keep them down. But no, we really have to be very careful about what is good for the goose must also be good for the gander. All our major leaders have been misrepresented in terms of things that they have said and so on and so forth. I mean, Vishnu Bisram wrote in the papers about a year ago that Guyanese said he wanted to see Clare from Buxton to Georgetown.
A statement so we usually attribute, to Janet Jagan.
And you and I grew up and hear that they said Janet Jagan said that she wanted to see Clare from Buxton to success. So there are these stories that you hear. They're myths. They're myths. And I can't be a responsible public commentator and reinforcing myths.
And what I consider lighter side, Miranda Brown said nobody in the PPP don't talk about you. Why apportioning such importance to yourself?
Tell Miranda I am glad to hear that. I can then walk freely, don't look over my shoulder. When people are telling me, Dr. Hines, be careful, I can tell Miranda I'm glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that.
Very well. I'm also in the comments here, someone is saying Dr. Jagan's actions spoke louder than his words. Basically saying similarly, he didn't use the words, but he benefit from the use of the words. And he
I agree.
Right.
I always, there's a big debate going on about Jagan being a communist and so on, and Jagan was a communist. But Jagan was a communist who used ethnicity and race as a mobilizing tool.
Nathan Fraser has an interesting comment here, and that is, if you were to be the president of this country, you would be trapped, just like Granger.
In what sense?
Well, I'm wondering, I was about to ask Nathan to give us some context, some clarity. I want to assume it's because of the fact that you chose to, quote unquote, defend or explain, clarify the Apanjat statement attributed.
Okay. But I can tell Nathan, you see one of the, and this is for Miranda too, one of the things about Black scholars is that we are scholars and we are activists. We have to be given the nature of our community. And so sometimes when we speak, you hear more of the scholar than the politician, to use the term, or political activist. So I suppose when I point out that Dr. Jagan didn't use the term, but he used the strategy, I think that's more the scholar that is coming out there. And I suppose what Nathan is saying is that when you're a politician, you don't give any quarter. You just, you disregard the truth. They say a good politician is a scamp man, and so on. So I suppose one has to navigate one's roles as scholar, as political activist, and so on. And I don't mind. I don't mind being in that quandary, if you will. Because I am not 100% politician. I am not. I'm a political activist who's also an academic, a scholar of sorts. And so therefore, one has to be able to navigate the various roles.
Thank you very much. It's 30 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. I think it's a good time for us to open up the lines. Let me just, in passing, respond to Royce who says, Dr. Jagan is the father of the nation. Put that in your pipes and smoke it. He was awarded in Africa. Burnham is the father of the nation. He too was awarded by Africa, except that the PPP fought tooth and nail to ensure award wasn't delivered. I don't know if Dr. Hines wants to comment on that. But
I just want to say, one is never sure of fathers.
True. His mothers.
One is always sure about mothers. So the whole concept of father of nation is such a silly formulation that I don't use it. You have a whole set of father, no mother. And we know fathers are not sure. No, Dr. Jagan, like Forbes Burnham, like A.U.C. Kwayana, like James Phillips Gay, and others, some of them I'm missing here, who are pioneers of our post-colonial struggle and our post-colonial. I prefer to use pioneers. They were pioneers. I don't like this whole thing with father. It's so sexist and it's empty. It's empty. When we talk about India and Africa, we don't say father India and Father Africa. What we just say? Mother Africa, Mother India. We're sure about mothers, not always sure about fathers. So it's a silly formulation, both from those who say Burnham is the father of the nation and those who say Jagan is from the nation. They are pioneers of our post-colonial struggle, and I think that is as much accolade as one can get.
It's a good fact to recognize that it was a collective. There's no one man or woman who would have taken us from there to here. No one. Brother
Kiraki, sorry to, as we were saying in Guyanese parlor, sorry to cut you, but I cut you. You see, Guyana, then Sidney King, could have become the first premier of Guyana, not Jagan. There was an impasse. The Jagan people wanted Jagan, the Burnham people wanted Burnham, and Martin Carton Rory Westmus suggested Guyana as a compromise leader. Burnham said, and I'm quoting Guyana here, Burnham had a key ring in his hand and he swung his key ring and said, I'll support him, meaning I'll support Sydney. And Jagan remained silent. And Guyana said, once Jagan remained silent, he read that to mean that Jagan was not in favor. And he was not about to put himself up to take away the leadership from anybody. And so he declined. Had Jagan joined Burnham and said, I'll support him, Guyana could have become the first premier, and we would have been talking about him as the father of the nation. Just a little bit of real history I'm putting out there.
Thank you. Roy, so be honest me to jump off of this train of stupidity this morning. So I'm going to address him every now and again. Burnham was rejected by African Leaders for an award. The award was withheld. Let me put it in my own understanding. The award was withheld because the PPP waged an international war to prevent Burnham from getting the award, even posthumously. In other countries,
that's not accurate, brother. It was sections of the WPA support groups that waged against. I mean, people think that it was the entire WPA. I can say that many of us in the leadership of the WPA, and I'm letting the cat out of the bag here, did not agree with that. And it caused a lot of rift in the WPA family. It was not unanimous, but it was the WPA that was, not the PPP.
Oh, my apologies. My apologies. The historian has set me right. All right. So, we had a call on the line for quite a while. Caller, thank you for holding your life.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Mr. David. Good morning to all my black brother and sister. Well, Franz Garden got a custom thing now for always wait on you for 5 minutes on the line, but that is okay. I could remember one video, and the video said, "What is your problem in your village and in your city? You could benefit from it." And now, if this becomes Franz Garden problem, all wait to wait 5 or 10 minutes. Let Franz Garden get your problem. Thank you very much for reminding me those words. Mr. David, I is a person that ups you from that Seri Jagan thing, but I don't want to deal with that now. I want to deal with this. Thank you very much. When I finished taking my lunch at 12 o'clock, I will start drinking whiskey. Because why? You use these words. Let us refrain ourselves from the teacher's winning and the teacher's victory. Thank you. God tell me, no, Franz Garden, back off. What you're saying is right, and they're going to come to you and say, yes, Franz Garden was right. The teacher, they're lost. You see, there's a difference of striking, you know. This word strike don't get big, strike and little strike. Strike is strike in any country. Let me explain myself. When the teachers take Franz Garden to be the teacher's representative, they understand what Franz Garden can do, what he cannot do. Then when they sign all package, I want to take the package and take it to the government. The government will find a day, if it's all day, for understand your package and everything. And when the government signed and said it's okay for Flash Garden representative teacher them, they signed that whenever there's a problem with the teachers, they have to find a day to sit down with me and hear the problem and deal with it. The union, the members of the Flash Garden do not have to strike to bring the government and the union to the table. That was a no-no. That is why they lost and they can't win. But when the teacher will decide to strike the concept Flash Garden, this is our problem. We don't have things to work with as a teacher. We want a better salary and we want a better benefit. So when we resign, we could enjoy the hard time and the tough days. Then Flash Garden have to take that package to the government. And the government and Flash Garden have to go through it. And if them said no, then Flash Garden have to take back the package and give it to the members them. And members say, okay, let them know next week Monday, we're going to strike for this package. That is what you call a strike. And that is how we do that, we receive victory and win. Because if it's 4 weeks, then we got to give something. It's a penny more, but that's 6.5%. The teacher that would win with something. Today's not my day, Friday's my day. So that is what we, oh yes, and thank you very much to let the people them know that what Abi Narton is doing, it is that is Abi Narton's position as an opposition leader. I always said an opposition leader could only say so much and do so much, because at the end of the day, they got to sit down with international leaders. It's we the people have to go outside there every day and bring the government down, not the opposition leader. He could just advise you guys what to do and do it in the right place. There is 2 victories we may get for Abi Narton, because he's doing Abi Narton working, but he cannot tell us everything going to do tomorrow morning. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your call. It's 27 minutes past 8. Excuse me, past 8 o'clock hour. The lines remain open. Doc Lines, anything you care to say?
Yeah, I would like to tell Flash Garden to take a good hearty lunch at midday, and then about 2 or 3 swings of whisker. But just to say, if we take off the table winning, then we have to take losing off the table. The Marxists like to use a term called dialectics. You know, if we take winning off the table, then we have to take losing off the table, because win and lose are connected. And so I was taking both winning off the table and victory off the table, and also taking losing off the table. So I'm saying, let us not frame it in a win-lose context. So I would take losing off the table too. You know, I always tell my students that, you know, if people want race to go away, I always tell my students, if blackness goes away, then whiteness goes away. If whiteness goes away, blackness goes away. Because the two are connected in terms of how race is conceived. So let us take both winning and losing out of the discourse. Let us frame the teacher's action in different terms, not in winning and losing terms. That's my only what we would say when they say, you know, you move a motion and then the word is escaping me this morning. Hey.
Amendment.
My own amendment to
thank you for holding.
Amendment to Flash Gordon's motion.
Neighbor.
Morning, neighbor.
Morning, neighbor.
Morning.
Doctor, pleasant good morning.
Thank you.
When you see you come on this show, so you see, me like my little brother, Kadaki, you know, but when you see me share my piece and me done, thank you for your call. These are sometimes it's one here, you them they got critique my gaff and them kind. I know it's plenty, brother Kadaki. I know it's plenty come on, I can't do all, but I just look out for little sometimes. So what I just do most time is wait for big brother come. Dr. Hines, you know, I think.
You
So
see,
pleasant good
Caller,
morning.
I was taught that you save yourself as the host if you don't comment. Dr. Hines is a guest. He is here to comment. Go ahead.
No. But you just comment on something and it is grudge. It is grudge. Although it's like your comments, but it still feel, you know, left out. Anyway, blessed love God. Listening to the program, you know, listening to Gab now, I think concerning some when you're addressing some of the with the trolls them on it. And you know, it's something that is really struck me. Some of the people that come on, especially with all due respect, you know, some of the Indian brothers, them, and most of them is be male, this come on. You know, it's like every time you come, you just come to be bitter. You know that when you come on program like BUXTONIAN Morning Time, and you come on program like Politics 101 and In the Ring and FYI, you know you're coming for hear the truth. The other side where you own party, your own people that we support, you don't hear from. And you see things going on. You see wrong going on. So we just come on the program them and you spend your whole hour and a quarter and them kind of things. You can't go by critics and them and hear them because they're not going to tell you the truth. And I would know that these brothers just come on and them kind of thing. And the critic never even constructive. A set of bitterness all the time. All the time. It is be so sad, you know. They don't use that thanks to 1 whole hour straight. Them just come on and just get the whole time to listen and them kind of thing. And instead you look forward for a nice, little meaningful critique and them kind of thing that you could have to share your view. And them kind of thing is a whole deep of bitterness. I never hear none of them come on and said nothing good but born them. And I sure some of them were born, they didn't even born when born them there. And some of them stifle the conscience because look at this, they support them. Would they get in the hierarchy of the PPP and them? They enjoy the constitution with the same born them on. And the institution will born them create NIS and them kind of thing. But you're hearing nothing concerning them kind of thing. It's sheer bitterness right through. What more these people want from us? What more they really want from us? Eh? What more they really want from we? But you know, we're not going to put them off. But I just want to let it know that they just childish. They just lot them and got no deal, no nothing inside of them. Instead of find something good to do. All just come with shape bitterness all the time. But you know we got a skin for take them, but you just got to highlight some of the things, some of the nastiness in them, man. You know. Anyway, have a good time. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, caller.
My concern.
Thank you, caller.
Blessed.
You know, the one thing we have to recognize is people get hired to do certain jobs, and if they're hired to do that job, then they have no choice but to do that job. If they're being paid to be malicious and wicked and bitter, then that's what I got to portray. Otherwise, they would be dismissed for want of performance. Call you like, not kind sorry, but
yes,
yeah, you'll comment after the call. Yeah, caller.
Yes, good morning, Dr. Hines, and good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. Good morning, all Guyanese, and good morning, all Guyanese in the diaspora. I'd like to talk about 2 topics this morning, Haiti and Guyana Elections Commission.
Caller, we have 26 minutes. I would suggest you keep those topics for Friday when it's free talk, Friday or tomorrow when you would have more time. Your choice.
I don't need more time. I just need time.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Now, in Haiti, what we have, and why I'm bringing this issue up, is because the same things that we use in Haiti to remove, same things are moving Guyana to remove David Arthur Granger, a core group of nations. we were speculating that Mia Mottley, Ralph Gonzalez, and Mr. Golden from Jamaica were possibly working with some sort of underhandedness. Now we're seeing it's deliberate that Mia Mottley, Ralph Gonzalez, and Jamaica are at it again. This time it's in the open. What they did to Guyana to remove a regime change for David Arthur Granger, they are trying the same regime change with Ariel Henry. Unfortunately, he got caught up in that because he was part of that. But let's look at the modality in which they used. The same principle, the same three musketeers. Now, this has been done by way of a resolution to the United Nations. It's not by coincidence that Carolyn Rodriguez is now president of the Security Council. That's all by design. Now, what they do quickly, they put together a core group, just about 12 countries. They go for a resolution. They ask the resolution to regime change Granger, or, for example, to regime change Ariel Henry. They didn't ask for a resolution to regime change Granger. But it's the same core group. And they're using it around the world to remove people who they choose. They tried it similarly with other countries, namely Venezuela. And while Venezuela is our enemy, we must look at the modality which they used. So I want Guyanese to see that what Mia Mottley and Irfan Ali, the hypocrite, who banned Haitians from coming to Guyana, all of a sudden now is making a 180 turnaround to help Haiti. Barbados didn't want Haitians in their country. Guyana didn't want them in their country. How come now they are so helpful? It's because they are both working. And we must see that Irfan Ali is working for the American government. We must call him out on it. And we must call Mia Mottley, and we must recognize that what's happening in Haiti now is going to happen in Guyana again. It happened in Guyana under who? Under the Granger administration. It's curious to me how the Speaker of the House during David Granger administration allowed that no confidence vote to be accepted on the floor. That's the area we need to look into. Who was he working for? Because I don't see that kind of a behavior coming from Mansour Nadir. Mansour Nadir would never let something like that happen. So it's very suspicious that the Speaker of the House in the Granger administration allowed that no confidence vote to come. Who was he working for? Is a possibility that he is doing the same types of things that Mia Mottley and them are doing. Is the possibility I'm looking at. GCOM. I heard Dr. Hines talking on the show the other day about the GCOM list and biometrics. And I said on the show previously about a week or so ago that we can go to the court, Dr. Hines, because as you pointed out, biometrics is being used. You alluded to that on your show. I know biometrics has been used for the passport, I said before. Biometrics has been used in the police system. Biometrics has been used all over GCOM. So how can biometrics be used in other agencies, Dr. Hines? And it's not equally been allowed to be used in GCOM. So my premise, my point is that GCOM is not been afforded the equal access or the equal protection of the Constitution. Because we, the voters, Dr. Hines, who would vote for the WPA or would vote for the PNC, when we put our votes aren't being equally protected as persons who are being equally protected by the passport office or the finance department or the banking department or the NIS or the TINT number. They're having protections by the Constitution over there. What about us when we go to GCOM to exercise our franchise on a universal suffrage? We aren't
Ah, goodness, morning. So I took off the mute on the software and I left the mute on the mixer. You see, these things is it's life. It's so when decadence meeting modernity. Hold on. You know, if you don't know to laugh at yourself, you really and truly won't survive it. Like you won't survive it. Well, I saw a set of impatient people, let me call them that. Some people ain't got no patience with you, you know. If you can't get it right the first time, they ain't got no time with you. In that few minutes here, did we make 3 minutes of no sound? More than 100 persons drop off of the live. Blabs, they gone. Ooh, I ain't got time for waste, man. I ain't hearing what the man's saying. That's the society we live in. It's a quick moving society, a fast moving society, but we don't know why. I personally don't know why we're so impatient in this society, because everybody's rushing and everybody's getting nowhere as far as I'm concerned. Good morning. Welcome to another program of Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. It is 15 minutes to the 8 o'clock hour. It is the 21st day of March in the year 2024. Welcome to the program. How have you been? How was it yesterday? How was it last night? How you get up this morning? You woke up feeling energized this morning or re-energized? Do you have a renewed hope that you can make a positive and meaningful change in this society and you will be respected as a citizen of this country? And you'll be treated fairly as a citizen of this country? Thank you, Audrey Brown. I'll share a joke with you just now about shirts like these. Yes, it's Thursday. I have a few of these. I think they call them Bahamas shirt or whatever they want to call them. These floral type, beach type shirts and so on. I have a couple of them. And every time I look at one to put it on and say, you know, I'm sure this is old people clothes. Have you ever noticed, men especially, I can't say so much of women, but I can say for men especially, as men age, they start to wear a lot of floral clothing, a lot of Hawaiian, no? A lot of beach type clothes. I wonder why. Huh? Why is it? Anybody has an explanation for me? And you know, the thing is, we're in Archer Morning. The thing is, in most instances, you find as you get older, let's say as couples age, the woman could always go out and come back with a shirt looking like this. You know, some color shirt with some big flowers and so on it. Anyhow, that's a lighter side. But that is how I look at these things, right? Oh, they're telling you you're getting big. You can't dress up in your why should say fancy dan like when you was according to Guyanese, right? You have to reflect your age. You gotta start wearing Hawaiian shirts and pants and so on and so forth. Anyway, that was a lighter side. Well, Don Sullivan said it makes you feel and look rich. All right, I can take your argument, Fit. I'm feeling and I'm really looking rich. Perhaps looking rich, looking rich this morning. I share about the feeling, right? Hold on. Like over carry jump. See, people say they're cheap. Some people always giving them. I tell you, some of them are quite expensive, John. So all of them ain't cheap. That's not true. Hey, all that way. Yes, as long as I had a good laugh like that, you allow me. Okay, June Sam has a nice explanation there. It's indicative of retirement and relaxation. Perhaps. Good. Yeah, so how have you been? Thank you again, Corinne. How have you been? As some people ask, what frets you? What bothered you this morning? I'll tell you some of the things that bothered me this morning. Anyhow, let's talk before that about the teachers' situation. So the teachers were back in court yesterday. I haven't seen much reportage in the media about what transpired in court yesterday. But I'm gathering that the Ministry of Education provided minutes and the teachers' union provided minutes. And what I consider a strange twist, instead of the president of the teachers' union being in court yesterday, I understand it was the vice president of the teachers' union that was in court yesterday. I don't know. The teachers' union must know how they're approaching it. But all the time we were hearing of the president of the teachers' union, president of the teachers' union, president of the teachers' union, general secretary of the teachers' union. But when this particular matter came up for hearing in court, based on the little reportage I saw, it is the vice president that was quote unquote on the stand. Good. So the Ministry of Education provided its minutes, and the teachers' union maybe provided their minutes too. And according to one headline I saw on the Marara Waves, the teachers' union admitted that financial matters were discussed at their previous meetings. However, they're contesting the claim that those financial matters pertained specifically to the wages and salaries, which is their major concern, right? It brought me back to what I was saying to Dr. Hines yesterday, that if it is based on his reasoning, his explanation, that once the minutes are provided to the courts and the courts can determine, well, here the ministry didn't discuss financial matters with the teachers, then the strike was just. Right? On the flip side of the coin, one would imagine if the ministry did discuss financial matters with the teachers, the strike was unjust. That was my reasoning with him yesterday. And so we are at a position, I would say, where the courts, the ministry has provided information to see, or evidence, as you all like to talk about. See, we were discussing financial matters, right? But like one of the lawyers in court pointed out, financial matters were discussed, but it doesn't mean that those financial matters were discussed to the satisfaction of the teachers' union, or the financial matters which were discussed were the ones that the teachers' union was interested in. Good. So if you want to read more of that matter in court there, I think you can. Okay, right. So Nicolette is telling us that he was in court, but the VP was on the stand yesterday. Right, you can check for the reportage on that on Demerara Waves. Demerara Waves did report on it. And that is where I gathered some of the information I gathered. I usually say, and like I said to Dr. Hines, if the ministry can provide 1 minute to say they discuss financial matters, is that adequate? Right? Is that adequate? And so I guess the court will have to make those determinations. What the teachers are arguing, and what many of us will argue too, is that the financial matters that I saw listed as being discussed, while they have the impact of giving teachers, I would say, more spending power, it doesn't give them increased wages and salaries. And some people, in some instances, conflate the two. Is what the government doing giving you more spending power? Or is it increasing your wages and salaries? And we have to make a difference of the two, because more spending power doesn't mean more benefits to me down the line, especially when it comes to my benefits. And I'm talking about my retirement benefits here. Right? So when the government gives me a gold scholarship, as a teacher, yes, that is like on the job training. Does on the job training benefit me or it benefits the employer? Some people will argue that it benefits both of us because I will be able to deliver more. I will be more productive for the employer. The employer will get more benefits. Right? So for me, from the standpoint I am at, on the job training benefits the employer more than it benefits the employee. So a gold scholarship for you to do a master's in education or whatever, for me, benefits the government more because the teachers might be more efficient. But how does that gold scholarship and that master's example impact my long-term benefits? Good. Why is this person calling? Good morning, or may I help you? You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. Yes, but I'm on a live program right now. Can you call me after 9, or at least you can message me on WhatsApp? Yeah, thank you. Yes. Yes. How does it benefit me long term with my benefits, my retirement benefits? If my salary stagnated, but I have been given a whole lot of skill to improve my efficiency on the job. Huh? Let's find that out. Let's reason that out. And so when you sit around the table and you say, all right, we have made it possible for teachers to go further their education through these gold scholarships. We have agreed to give teachers time off to pursue higher education and so on and so forth. How do those things benefit teachers on the long run in terms of their financial benefit, especially after retirement? Because like we have established here, retirement benefits are calculated based on your last salary, among other things, I should say. Right? So it's important for us to make that definition, that differentiation. Fix Aros is saying higher education means better pay. Have we seen that to be true in Guyana? Higher education means better pay? Fix Aros, are we seeing that in Guyana? Let's compare the education of our teachers in Ghana to some of the Caribbean islands and the rate of pay. And let us really and truly assess whether a higher education means better pay. Also, let us look right here locally, because some of you will argue, don't let us compare Ghana with other territories and so on. Let us make some comparisons right here. If higher education means better pay, our teachers, many of them who have higher education than a lot of our ministers of government and permanent secretaries and other operatives of the government, political appointees and so on, should be paid way above what those people are paid. And that is why last week or earlier in the week, I spoke about a meritocracy. People must not be given remuneration based on who they know and what linkage they get. They must not be given job positions based on who they know and what linkage they get. People must be appointed based on their qualification, both academically and experience-wise, skill level, and stuff like that. And they must be paid commensurate. The payment must be in keeping with those skills and qualifications. So for every box you tick, your salary, your compensation is supposed to go higher than the person who didn't tick those boxes. But look at the Guyanese society. Is that what we're seeing? There are teachers with masters. Marklight, for example, is Dr. Marklight now. I take you a bet. In fact, I don't even know what job Mark like does anyhow. Um, but I know he has to be a part of the teaching fraternity to be president of the union. I don't know if he's an active teacher, right? But compare the remuneration of Mark Light to many in the Ministry of Education, to Sitara Gyal, for example, and see if his higher education means higher pay for him. And lots of the teachers, they're teachers who are superbly more qualified than Sitara Gyal. And a lot of our minions who she has single-handedly picked and appointed. Right? See if their higher education means higher pay. Sometimes in the normal world, the economists say what? Ceteris paribus, all things being equal, things remaining the same, whatever they in the normal world one would expect. Right? One would expect that higher education means higher pay, and that is why people continuously go for higher education, but not in Guyana. The teachers were just told that there can be no debunching. And this is one of the issues I heard when this thing was done. There can be no debunching anymore because every teacher is paid at a higher level of the scale. And so if you're a teacher in the system 20 years, you got 20 years experience more than the teacher that just came out of college. Right? The two of you are paid at the same rate if you are in the same position. So there can be no debunching. There's no separation of the sheep and the goat. You don't get a superior salary because of your experience and stuff like that. There can be no debunching. Once you're on the same scale, everybody is on that scale. Everybody gets paid at that scale. So what sense are we making? What are we saying, Fix Hours Ghana? That teachers should just go into the system. Throw down. Don't improve their education. Just go through the system. Because at the end of the day, all of us will be paid at a higher level of the scale. Right? Fix Hours. Anyhow, no matter what the current government does, you'll always have something negative to say. Because the current government doesn't operate normal. So even when they do it in a dysfunctional way. Look at the decision on the NIS payment, for example. NIS benefits are calculated in the best of your last 3 years, if I remember clearly. But with the last pronouncement of this government, all NIS pensioners basically are going to get the same pension regardless of what their last 3 years were. When you bring the minimum NIS pension to what the maximum currently is or something to the extent, everybody gets lumped together. That is laziness. The government is displaying that it is lazy. It will not take the time. It does not care about taking the time to properly calculate and cater for the improvement of people's wages and salaries and other benefits. So you can tell me, I worked my ass off. I made 20,000 contributions. I'm just throwing numbers around. 20,000 contributions to NIS. And I will get the same pension as a person who made 15,000? That is not how the scheme was set up. Those were not the markers, or that is not what the markers were intended for. But the government, in its laziness and abusiveness, decides that I don't care who throw how much more than who. All of y'all can get the same thing. Right? Fixed hours wonders why I never hold a senior position. Boss man, I always in a senior position. I've always held a senior position. Because I work at me for me, I'm always the CEO. Right? I am always the CEO. Even if I work with a private sector entity or a public sector entity, trust me. In there, I might not be a senior person, but I always am the CEO. There ain't nobody who comes here and tell you how to invest in yourself, you know. I do that every day. I love to invest in myself. I work with other entities so I can accumulate capital. Yes, I'm always on the outside peeping in. And I'll tell you why I'm always on the outside peeping in. Because when I'm on the outside and I look in, what is on the table on the inside is not appetizing enough. It doesn't value my time and effort. When I give my all. You see, every morning, rain or shine, I am on this program because when I decide to do something, I give it my best shot. And I ain't gonna work with nobody in private sector or public sector that doesn't respect the fact that I will dedicate my energies to whatever I commit to. And the respect in that instance is usually reflected in what I am rewarded with. Good. What I'm rewarded with. Let me tell you how the government system is stupid. I worked with the then Minister of Public Works, not Public Works, Tabitha Sarbo Hali, Minister of Public Service. The agreement was I was going to go work with the Minister of Public Service as her public relations advisor. You know that in this day and age where public relations is a science, there's no such position, if I remember clearly, catered for in the job descriptions in the public service. Communications officer, there's no such position catered for. I remember meeting a young man there who got a degree in in communication, working in the library. They have him, his status was either as library assistant or librarian or some foolishness like that. I say he wasn't being paid for his education. Was not being paid for his education. Who wants to go and invest in their education? Years and time and money, financial resources, etc. And then to turn up for some public official tell you, they could only describe you as a clerk. And based on your description as a clerk, when you look at the salary scale, you get a quarter of what you can get elsewhere, even if you work for yourself. Who wants to work in a system like that? Y'all are some dreadful people. All of the PPP and those who support them, y'all dreadful. Imagine. Well, anyway, fix ours, you're an idiot. That's what I will tell you. You are certainly an idiot. Imagine, you know, the PPP government, the first round of ministers and so on. The first round of ministers and so on in the PPP government, a lot of them ain't got no kind of qualification. Up to now, a lot of them ain't got no kind of qualification. Imagine a man who used to park bicycle on the Metropole Cinema. What's giving a ministerial job and earning more, way more than people invested in their time. Time and energy and resources to further their education. Way more. Cement Roti was earning more than any teacher must have ever earned in this country. Y'all know Mansour Nadi used to drive taxi. These are the people who walk around with a chip on their shoulder. They're the big shots of society. A man who can't pronounce the word battalions. Lording it over, you know. Y'all don't carry me down this road, ignore, fix ours. That's all I want to say. Right? There's one thing I can tell all of you. Matt is asking. One thing I can tell all of you. The jobs I held when the coalition was in power didn't come to me as favors. I applied for them. I saw advertisement in the newspaper and I applied for them. I was interviewed. I was shortlisted or not. If I tell y'all some stories, y'all wouldn't believe it. Y'all would not, many of you would ask, why is Kidaki Amsterdam still supporting the opposition? Why is Kidaki Amsterdam still in the WP? Why is Kidaki Amsterdam still active in political activism in this country? If I tell y'all some stories. And I don't tell you those stories in many instances because I don't want people to believe that I am angry or am bitter with anybody or any institution, or it was all about me. My fight, my public fight is for the betterment of this country, and I will maintain that. Yeah, fix ours. You're smart, man. Right? I'll maintain that. In 2015, and the coalition went into office, I had a private school in Buxton. A functional private school. I was asked for assistance in the Ministry of Education in certain areas. And in order to avoid a conflict of interest, I agreed to close my private school because I saw a greater national good coming from my effort. Not one day did I work in the Ministry of Education. Not one day. So I know what sacrifices are in terms of serving this country. As a young man, I'll tell you all this. We still gonna go to the main point of discourse this morning. You know, we got time. As a young man, I'll tell you all this. I completed my education, CXC, etc., and applied to the Guyana Defense Force to be a cadet officer. I went through the physicals, I went through the practical, the academics, I went through everything. Went to Takama, was taken to Takama. Yeah. Takama, yes. For physical assessments and everything. When I got to the Defense Board interview, that's the final interview for you to be commissioned. The PPP denied me the opportunity of serving my country as a cadet officer or as a military man. Why? I was from Buxton and I was a member of the WP. No other reason, you know. No other reason. That is sacrifice to the country for me. because I was involved in political activism. Some of us from that day would have said, hey, damn this thing I done with politics because it's affecting your upward mobility. My skill, my qualification, my experience, I'm sure I can easily get a government job, as y'all like to say, or even work in the private sector. If I were to decide that, hey, I done with political activism. So don't think I'm into political activism because I expect a greater benefit. I join lines where I go. I toe the line. I don't pull ranks. I don't call people and ask for favors. I keep telling you, please and thanks. I don't like to say that. I don't like to know somebody got one over me. Keep that in mind. So my fight is not about I wanted to enjoy the good life, the exorbitant life like a lot of y'all in government. And y'all with your government friends. I fight because I see what the ordinary man and woman in this country suffer on a daily basis. And for as long as they got politicians who behave as though they don't know the suffering of people, and many of them don't know the sufferings of people because a lot of them born with a gold spoon in their mouth or were handed a silver spoon by somebody that was born with a gold spoon. Look at the politics of this country and you will get to recognize like the Guyanese in India. It's a friends and family business. Quite frankly, on both sides of the aisle, you would find a lot of people who get a lot of the opportunities were catapulted and grandfathered into quote-unquote top positions in this country are people whose relatives are directly involved in the politics of this country. Right? I am saying, and I'm going to say it again, Guyana needs to be a meritocracy. If you want the cream of the pie, then you must be the cream of the crop. But it's not happening here. And there are those of us who will fight, continue to fight for it. So again, higher education in this country doesn't mean better pay, it doesn't mean better remuneration, it doesn't even mean respect. Imagine a teacher could get a master's in degree. A master's in education or something like that. And that master's in education, compared to a degree or something in social work or something, somebody is sitting higher up with a lesser qualification and learning it over that teacher, living the good life, got maid, got gardener, got security, got all kinds of allowances and so on. And the teacher who has a master's got to be selling freaking tamarind ball and plantain chip in school. And hot dog and sausage and aerated drink and snacks. The roles should be reversed. The roles should be reversed. What we got is, I don't even can't find the right description for them. Sitting in political offices, sucking the lifeblood out of this country and the citizens of this country. And then got the temerity to come and tell people that they're getting good this and they're getting this and they got together. There's some sickening souls. Anyhow, do you know that on average, For every dollar the government pays you, it takes back 40 cents. 100 cents worth a dollar, in case you know. Again, Dexter Leander is telling me, throw my hat into the ring and start a campaign for presidency. My refusal to do that is another example of where I stand. I could run for presidency. But how does my running for presidency impact the overall political situation in this country? What are the likelihood of me, number one, in this short period of time from now to next year, building a political movement that will allow me to contest every, what we call it? Let me call it constituent. To contest every region in this country for the general and regional elections. Number one. Number two, what is the likelihood of me winning the largest block of vote to form the government? David answer, we must be rebel, but we mustn't be unwise. Yeah, I could make a difference. I might win a seat or 2 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 10. But will I win the largest block of vote to form the presidency, to form the government? If I can't do that, then what I'll be doing is reducing the chances of the opposition elements as a coalition winning the largest block of seats so that they can form the government. And my interest now is for the opposition elements, the coalition, to win the largest block of seats to take the government from the PPP. I will not do anything to endanger that. After that has been achieved, maybe I can go on my own ego trip and say, well, I want to turn president next. And since being in a coalition is not going to allow me to be president, I'm going to start my campaign from today for the next 5 years to become president. That is how real I am. I mean, Dexter, and there are others who will urge me on and say, man, you could do this thing. Yeah, I could do this thing. But you don't push a seed down today and it turn a tree tomorrow. You gotta be a sapling and so on and so on. Let's deal with that. That's a reality. So you got your response there, Sherwin. I'm going to be on the campaign train. I guarantee I'm going to be on the campaign train. I can't even say I guarantee that I'm going to be in the next government, because I'm not even sure I'm going to be on the next slate. But I guarantee you, by God's grace, as long as I got life, I'm going to be on the campaign train. Right? So keep that in mind. Now let's talk about these big fishes sucking the lifeblood out of people. The president and the prime minister and the vice president and the attorney general and all of those. Somewhere in that short list I gave you, I don't think there's any of them that pays tax in this country. Joke of the day. I got to put that one up. Joke of the day. Joke of the day, Miranda Brown. Joke of the day. Thank you for relaxing these muscles on my face. Sign me up with the PPP. I don't make deals with the devil. The devil is the PPP is the devil's incarnate. Yes, that long list or short list that I told you about, it's just a snippet of the people who don't pay taxes in this country, you know. We are all set of people, political bloodsuckers who don't pay taxes. So while you, the ordinary citizens, are being paid starvation wages, every dollar they pay, they take back 40 cents. Every dollar they pay, they take back 40 cents. So in short, you're getting 60 cents on the dollar. I can understand. Maybe in the 60s and the 70s coming forward, when Ghana did not have access to the kind of resources that it now has. One would have argued, hey, it's a cooperative republic. We all got to put our shoulders to the wheel. We all got to give back so that the country will have capital to invest in us. As we come forward into this period, where we are a land of plenty, one would naturally expect the tax burden on citizens to be reduced. But it's getting worse. Big companies like Atari, you're getting 10 years tax holiday. You don't have to pay taxes for 10 years. Check and see what the investors in the Qatari group and whether they or not they really need those relief compared to the poor man. This body come as an investor, that body come as an investor, this one come, all of them getting tax relief. But the citizens of this country are paid 60 cents on the dollar. 40 cents is kept from them as taxes. And this government is saying that it cares about the well-being of citizens. A lot of these idiots come here and ask or say, black man I invest, black man can't run business, black man I get business. But black man make up the majority of the public service with 40 cents on every dollar is taken from them. And so the 60 cents that they're left with is inadequate for the mere survival. And so they can't accumulate capital. And that's the economic fact. Compared to Indo-Guyanese, even the Portuguese, who are in smaller numbers in the public service, Chinese and so on, but larger numbers in private sector, who decide how much taxes they should pay. And not I say who decide how much taxes they should pay, because by the tax laws might say they have to pay X percent. X percent of a smaller percent is still less taxes. The X percent of a smaller amount is still less taxes than you have to pay. Understand this. Public servants, their taxes are deducted at source. As before you get your paycheck, your taxes get deducted. Private sector has to prepare their income statement for the submission of their taxes. And so what do? In most cases, the numbers just are flooded, are fudged. They fudge the numbers. So they retain more for capital investment. You know what is sickening in this country? Even though 40 cents is taken at source from your $1, when it is found that you have overpaid your taxes, because some of us calculate our own taxes and some of us don't have a clear understanding of the calculations. And so sometimes we end up paying more than we ought to pay. Thank God now they have the online submission. So the online submission usually show that you have overpaid your taxes. One would expect that in a functional society, citizens will get tax refunds. The Americans look, and the Canadians and so on, and those in the quote-unquote developed world look forward to that period of the year when they will get their tax refund. Do we ever get tax refund in this country? Do we ever get tax refund in this country? And I'm raising this issue because someone has asked me to raise this issue. I'm asking for a friend. Does the government of Guyana, does the Guyana Revenue Authority give tax refund to people who overpay? And if they do, how often they do, and when they do, what is the procedure for getting that tax refund? I'm asking. Because the person has asked me to ask, say, listen, we're getting starvation wages. They're taking 40 cents from the dollar. And if we short pay them on taxes, note this, if we short pay them on taxes $1, then that dollar compounds over a period of time. And before we know it, we are owing the GRA thousands of dollars. And those of you who doubt it, check it for yourself. If you do not pay, if you short pay your taxes by $1, over a period of time, that dollar increases. It's compounded. You're paying interest on it, interest on it, interest on it, interest on it. And then that dollar becomes thousands of dollars that you owe to GRA. But when you overpay GRA, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, that overpayment sits at GRA. And you don't get a refund, or even when you get a refund, you get the bare basic refund. I can tell you, I had the experiences I've had in this country. I am so happy for them because I can use them to teach. When I talk from a point of experience most times. In the 2000s, I can't remember who was the head of GRA at the time. Let me read Miranda Brown's response before I continue what I'm saying. Yes, there is tax refund. A few years ago, I guess that should have been past tense. Yes, there was tax refund a few years ago, right? Because we're talking a few years ago. That sounds like the past. Now all adjustments are made before the end of year, so the likelihood of getting a refund is low. This month, some adjustments were made. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but yes. Let me go back to this years ago story. And Miranda is right. A few years ago, you used to get tax refund. I can't remember who was the tax commissioner at the time. I'd rather suspect the PPP was in government. When I got a letter, in fact, I got 2 letters over a period of time from GRA saying that I had overpaid my taxes. Right? And the amounts were included in the letter by how much I had overpaid. And the procedure is that I had to go to perhaps the accounting department, submit the letter, they will prepare the check, and I will get it. I was successful in getting one of those checks. To this day, I didn't get the other one. To this day, I have not gotten the other one. And that was years ago. Nowadays, the system is supposed to be so much more efficient. Yet decadent. Because the person was asked me to ask, as evidence that for the last 2 or 3 years they have overpaid their taxes. They have not received a notification from GRA to say that, well, in letter, to say that they have overpaid their taxes. The system is showing that they have overpaid their taxes. You know what made the last submission? They underpaid their taxes. I think by, let's say, $20,000. That's last April, right? My understanding is the amount that they overpaid by is almost tripled right now being demanded by GRA. Where is the equity? Where's the fairness? Where is the consideration in this society for the ordinary man? Is it possible that there could have been a set-off of the underpayment against the overpayment? Maybe the person was very well testing the system in that lane. Right? Is it possible that GRA system could show it, hey, this man overpays taxes to the last 3 years to the value of $105,000. And this year we underpay by $20,000. Can we deduct this $20,000 from this $105,000 that we have for him? And so we now do him $85,000 and let's prepare his check and send it. But we have a government and we have public functionaries who, as they say, only think for themselves. I know there are many, many Guyanese. I personally should be receiving some refunds. I personally should be returning some refunds. Miranda Brown, that's not accurate, that there should be no overpayment now. And I'm going to explain that to you. When I was working with the Minister of Public Service, your monthly taxes are deducted. Your monthly taxes are deducted. But then unceremoniously in the middle of the year, around August, I was dismissed by the PPP government. Now, how taxes are calculated? Your taxes are calculated in such a way that the income you're supposed to get at the end of the year, the personal allowance, let me call it that, is X amount. It caters to 12 months. And so if you pay taxes for 6 months at that rate, and then you did not work for the next 6 months, when they look at your overall income for the year, you did not make that annual deductible. And so you should not have been paying tax for that year. Check it, Miranda Brown. I hope I've given you the right explanation, folks. But the fact is, if you've worked partially for the year and your taxes were deducted, and you have proof that you did not work for the rest of the year, and so at the end of the year, your deductibles, your income did not meet the amount of your deductibles, then there should have been no deductible. So you're supposed to get refunds and taxes. I would want to call it like that. That might be considering something like the universal basic income. If you don't make a certain amount of money, then you don't get taxed. And so, yes, Miranda, it's possible that there are overpayments because there are a lot of people who lose their jobs or quit their jobs part of a year. And so they would have already paid taxes to a certain value before they quit or lost their jobs. In some instances, your rate of pay could change midway. Your rate of pay could change midway. Maybe you left one job and you went to a low paying job and so on. And so that too will affect your annual income, which will affect your deductible. And so, yes, even with the automated system, people can overpay taxes. Right, Miranda? Go do your research and come back. Now, Miranda is telling me about exceptions now. And these real life situations in the workplace, and these real life situations in industry and commerce, what nonsense you're telling me about exception? The lines are open. 6225923 is the number to call. You tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. We want to know Miranda Brown and the rest of the PPP bigwigs. We want to know how we can get with tax refunds. The tax refunds that we want. Don't tell us about exceptions. Whatever exceptions are, we still want with tax refunds. Call it like good morning.
Yes, good morning to you and good morning to all my Guyanese brothers and sisters this morning. Well, I must say first that I enjoyed my lunch yesterday. That's why I'm using the word good morning to all my Guyanese brothers and sisters. But it's a one-shot deal because tomorrow I'm going back to greeting my black brothers and my black sister. I am glad you used those words this morning. What it would benefit you for run for president now? What can you gain from that? Can you beat the president leader now? Frat Garden said no. But I'm glad London listened to you. And that is why Frat Garden needs you to be our prime minister. Because you're not representing the word smart. You represented the word wise. And I do hope my friend Abinat listening to you clearly, even not every week, one time a week, and listen to what you say because Mr. Abinat need you by his side. You represent the story in the Bible with Joshua. It's a reason why. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are.
It's a reason why God used and saved Joshua from getting killed and used that man to save Moses to save Joshua. Because at the end of the day, you know what God said? Why he saved Joshua? Because Joshua is the one leading people them to the Paris, to the promised land. But Moses lead the people them out of the hands of bondage. So yes, we must start rally for you to be prime minister. Rally for Mr. Paul Slow to be Minister of Home Affairs because you guys qualify. You guys could do a good job. Miss Lawrence to go back to Minister of Health because I know all three of you guys would not fail yourself. I would not fail Abinati. So Abinati will not fail his supporters them. It is time for we start our campaign and rally behind these names. Let me put a piece into the teachers, if I will, if I may. If I was a teacher union, I would have come up with a new idea now. And the new idea, I would keep in serve with all my teachers there. I said, look, this is my position. I put it to a vote. Let me draw back from the court system. We are not getting nowhere, and we will still end up with zero. But we could start all over again. A man that fight and run shall live to fight another day. Let me take the loss and move on. Because the hardest ball just end up sound like when you put a pulsar to the wheel, it gets soft. Let me come up with this package now. We're going to the government now with new package. We need more 20% from 19 to present to 2024. We need a better benefit. Most of all, a better benefit. And we need any problem in the job and job, the job place must be rectified. That must be the new package. And I would let them know, plain. I would give them 15 working days to get back to me. Now we're gonna call the shots. Because we just ail, they find more aisle. So before they borrow money from that aisle there, for the land, for the road and hotel, we could demand our share. And this time, we're going to put all at the wheel, the gaffer bow. And if 15 days pass with no answer, send back the union again. Say, hey, tell them tomorrow morning, we're going to strike. And in the meantime, the teacher union have to get up at a union and say, hey, this time we got to bring them in. Because all of we feeling the pain, not teachers alone, nurse and other workers them. And we go with all we package and give it to them and tell them plain in 15 days. You got to challenge the people, man. We must not go low with them. We must go low with them, not go high. We run away, we go get blows and killing because they love to kill black man run. That's that wheel. If I was a teacher union, that was a new package. Forget about the arm thing. Draw back from the court system. It's making me look soft and weak and stupid too. That is my thing for today. Tomorrow is my day.
Thank you for your call. The lines remain open. 6225933 is the number to call you. Tune to the Guyanese Morning Time. I am your host, Kidaki Amsterdam. Remember, the Buxton Business and Cultural Expo takes place on Thursday, 1st of August at Dorset Lawns. That's on Church of God Road or Midwalk Road, as we call it, Buxton. Starting time is 10 o'clock. There are lots of games, food, well-stocked bar, and more for you to partake in. Booths and vending spots are available. You can contact 6827981 for details. 6827981 for details, or now you can access booths and vending spots. Right? Support the thing. It's the first, and it's going to be annual in Buxton. Buxton Friendship Business and Cultural Expo. Call you live. Good morning.
Morning, Kadaki. And I want to say that I felt really good this morning when you explained, when someone said you should run for president. You explain then why you will not run for president. And I want to commend you for that. You're thinking about the nation as a whole. The caller before me, I don't know, like, he has some sort of, I don't know what it says relates to Albie Norton. Albie Norton is, I would say, 10.5 popular as a presidential candidate. I am one that supported Albie Norton to be the leader of the party, but I no longer support him. However, Norton is flouting every law with every constitutional law within the party. Congress was due since the 18th of December last year. You have not called Congress. He said the General Council will decide. He had the General Council in November. Then he said that the central executive body will decide because it was not an agenda item of Council. Last Saturday, Suburban Rally, Mr. Albie Norton hold out himself that I will be the presidential candidate. For me, that attitude not helping us where you're depending on coalition politics to get you into office. It is aggravating persons who you might want to invite or who might want to join the coalition. Having said that, the least Albie Norton can do for his party is to call a primary. Primary will not have to relinquish it with the leadership of the party, When Granger contested the election in 2011, he was not the leader of the party. So the Carbon called a primary. And all who were interested from the party contest. Whoever win that primary will be the presidential candidate. If Aubrey Norton win that primary, I, that is not supporting Aubrey Norton now, will then support Aubrey Norton because the members would have spoken. And I think that is what we need. This guy just holding out Aubrey Norton, Aubrey Norton, Aubrey Norton, and Aubrey Norton is more than half popular. So we don't have time on our side. We have time on our side. For the primary, all who's interested in showing the hat in the ring within the party, show your hat, get the vote, we arrive as a presidential candidate, and then we look at the coalition. Coalition sit down, among them now, they will see which is the best suited candidate to lead the coalition. It doesn't have to be PNC. The important thing is that we need to get rid of the PPP. On your last program when I called and I said this, we would have already won these elections, but every day we are fighting harder and harder to lose this election. The longer we take to settle into a coalition, and so that we can go there and talk to persons, this election is two things. The masses want to hear about money in their pocket. The PPP will be campaigning on infrastructure. Two things. They will be campaigning on infrastructure. The masses want to hear about money. How is it you're going to get money into the pocket? And Aubrey Norton just holding on and holding out himself. As the presidential candidate, it is to the detriment of the nation and it is self-serving interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, somebody said yesterday they like when I comment, but I don't comment often. I only comment sometimes when I think it's necessary to comment. But short comment on this call. The daily fights. Caller, how are you contributing to those fights? That's all I want to know. How are you contributing to those fights? And Aubrey Norton saying at the cost of living rally, I didn't hear him, but I'm quoting the caller. I will be the presidential candidate. Well, here, if I can't better me, who must better me? Do you expect Norton to go and say, well, Walton Desir or Ford or Mike Paul or Williams or Figueroa or whoever will be the presidential candidate? I will be the presidential candidate. According to Roy, I'm good bite me. Hold on, Roy. What do you expect Norton to say? Good bite Norton? Go to bite Norton. Is Norton a normal human being? Yes, Norton is a normal human being. He has hopes and aspirations like everybody else. In terms of the primary and so on, I mean, you don't talk about primary in this country, but I understand what they call this thing. Norton said Congress is going to be, I think, by the end of August. And so those who don't want Norton to be the presidential candidate ask by the end of August to get rid of him. I don't know why we just lose energy over certain things. Small fries, very small fries. You don't want Norton, get rid of him at Congress by the end of August. Good? Who pays the piper calls the tune? Keep that one in mind. I got a former teacher of mine. Let me make it clear. Former staff of mine who worked with me as a teacher. He used to say confidence, ignorance. Confidence, ignorance. You're so confident that you sound ignorant. Right? Let's hope that's not the case with Norton. The lines are open here. Call you live. Good morning.
Hello.
Call you live. Good morning.
Yeah, Mark Kadaki. All right, Congress come whenever it is. We get rid of Norton. Are we going to be in the same position? We're going to still be fighting. We're going to still be fighting. We're going to be in the same position fighting. So what are we as people doing to bring everyone together? Forget about the leaders. What are we doing to bring everyone together and make this thing a united front? Right? Because
you're gonna have a Norton faction, and you're gonna have a whoever else faction. And we ain't know about coming together, put our differences aside, come together for the betterment of it. You know, we fight remains one, getting rid of people. This is what we fight is, just get rid of them. But no, we want to fight to get rid of our own people before we fight to get rid of the main enemy. That's the thing. But I've been listening to this United Nations thing, you know, little spigot from here, there, and everywhere. Do here to share, Winseed and all of them think that the interviewers are their supporters from Port Morant and Bath Settlement, that these people ain't got a clue what's going on, that these people just come whoop, out to the sun or out to the moon or out to somewhere and just dropping questions like that. These people don't know what's going on in the country, right? And they're telling people about what? Because reports haven't been made, make this thing is up. I will not shy we thief fish, but we mustn't call we a thief. We mustn't report to the police station about we thief and fish from their own part. But I'm saying this. These people, I like what they're doing. They're cornering themselves. I let them continue to corner themselves, and we're going to have a good laugh. We're going to have a good laugh. I like how they're setting themselves up because they think that everyone come from Port Morant or Bath Settlement. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for your call. I don't know. Everybody seems to have a plan to win this election. I don't have a plan to win it. I have a plan to show in my lot. Right? Anybody who goes up against the PPP, I with them. Right? Anybody who goes up against the PPP, right? Anybody who goes up against the PPP, I supported them because the PPP, I'm convinced, is not good for this country. I've seen it time and time again. Those who want to argue differently, you're free to argue, right? You're free to argue, but the fact is, the evidence is out there. The brother raised the discussion about what is happening at the UN Human Rights Committee hearings. Quite frankly, nothing really has surprised me. Nothing really has surprised me. I never expected the PPP to go and be honest in their answers. And I never expected the PPP to present sensible answers. They think that they can just go there and wax lyrical and that will be accepted as gospel. Maybe because they don't see the UNHRC as having the authority to compel them to do anything or fix anything. But they are signatures to certain protocols, and so they just go through the paces. So nothing there surprises me. It just lays bare, for those of you who weren't seeing, the kind of people we got in government. Caller, you're live.
Yes, a blessed good morning, my brother. I really and truly admire the deliberation between you and Mr. Hines this morning, Dr. Hines, Professor Hines. It was very inspiring, and I appreciate his balanced answers to your questions. I appreciate what he did this morning. It was outstanding. For those who have sense to hear, those who have ears to hear. Anyhow, there is so much that is worrying in our country. Top of the line is leadership of the PNC. And for me, that is a no-no for any sensible Guyanese. You know, because in any organization, even in your home, the head of the home is the father. Even if your father does drink rum, he does smoke cigarette or whatever, you have to respect him. You have to obey his way of life. You have to obey the rules and regulations that he will stipulate. Instead of that, everybody wants to be a leader. No ship has two captains. Why all the other leaders after Lyndon Sampson Forbes Burnham were respected? You know, it bothers me. I want to use a strong word. Why the hell these clowns in the PNC can't understand that this man was duly elected in a democratical process and band around him and say, well, comrade leader, I don't think we should do so, we should do so, we should do so. You know, instead of that, it's about personality. At the congressional last meeting, last election, all of them said they will work with whoever win the leadership. The big traitor gone to Venezuela. His factions, you see them all over the place hustling to drink soup, shaking hand here, hugging up there, and all kind of thing. One was even sent on a country conference. Those conferences are being initiated by the government, and you are on that team. What the hell you're showing people and telling people, man? Every Guyanese is a fool. I am surprised that that fella goes and his likes. I think Mr. Norton is trying his utmost and he needs to be supported. The other one, the other day, you see in some room, huh? Nothing is wrong. We are all human beings. A handshake here, a hello, how you do. But when you're in close proximity of your enemy, any little kindergarten child is going to say, something is wrong here. And those are the people they are promoting. We don't want snakes as leaders. We want upright people. You know, right now, Mr. Norton has thrown the ganja in the ring. He said, look, anybody come and publicly declare that I have a dirty linen. None of them can do that. All the rest you're hearing in through the grapevine, this one Dessa, that one Texas, that one this. Come on, man. It is about getting rid of the PPP, which is so, as according to Sherrod, stink, dirty, destructive, and name it. You know, it is becoming so disgusting when you listen to some of these people. Huh? It is hurting me and so many other Guyanese who don't want to publicly speak. Among us, especially my black brothers and sisters, you have so many misguided individuals. Just imagine a minister was so bold to tell me, man, I know what you're saying, but whenever you're done is my bread and butter. That's how low black man is. That's why critics coin black people as low life. These are the kind of people you have in this country. Before we band together to get rid of the PPP, we are fighting down each other. Anyhow, the man promised that August is going to be the Congress. And let us see what will happen. You know, because at this point of time, after doing all my due diligence among all of these cockroach, he is the only fit and proper person to lead the PNC. All the rest have blemish. All the rest have blemish. You have a particular one. Until now, he has not publicly said sorry to the nation for throwing the nation under the bus. And these are people that people are still thinking about. Your father allowed strangers to crawl into the house and destroy your home. And then you must love him up. You have a right to stay far from him because he's not representative of the home. You know, so it's a lot of things people got to understand. And as I said before, leadership, once one are being designated as being leader, everybody's supposed to fall in line. And that is one of the reasons why they used to say that Burnham was a dictator. Because he used to deal with them. All traitors, he used to deal with them. Let Guyanese come to their senses and stand together, because any time the PPP shall remain there, it is sad to see 90% of black men going to be slaves in this country, because that is the ulterior motive. And it's time for them to stop the nonsense and cooperate. when it comes to the United Nations program that is going on presently, I hope these people will sanction Guyana and from the top right down. Sanction all of them, redraw their visas and what have you. I hope they send a very big jet because the crew should be big. Anyhow, have a blessed day. God's blessings, brother. Bye.
Thank you for your call. I see, oh, Ladoy, you know, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Call it live, good morning. It's past
Hi,
9.
good morning, Karachi. Good morning. I just want to piggyback on that caller that's called there with the support from Mr. Norton. I don't know why is it Mr. Gomes, who say he's in the party since when, right? Trying to destroy Mr. Norton. He and some other probably of his followers or so try to mess with Mr. Norton. No, we have got to support our leaders. We have got to support our leader. Why would we want to be in disarray at this time? You know, everybody's talking about Norton. Every time they open their mouth, Norton is this and Norton is that. Norton is one man. If Norton should call a protest out there, see how much of them would go out there to protest. If you get 10 or 15 or 20, you get enough. You get plenty. Everything they want every time they open their mouth, they want to talk about Norton this and Norton that.
Thank you,
And fools
caller.
just talk about Norton is the leader. And he should not be doing this and doing that, and he should call Congress. I don't understand that.
Thank you,
That's my
caller.
contribution. Right.
You know what amuses me? And it shows where people's emotions are. It shows where people's emotions are. Of all the things we spoke about this morning, the only thing that people can't talk about is Norton and the PNC and leadership. You mean this vampire tax system in bothering y'all? You mean people not getting the tax refund in bothering y'all? You mean the shiny projects of the PPP while neglecting the basic needs of the citizenry in bothering y'all? Only Norton. Call only line. I have to play a voice note.
Good morning, Camps family. Good morning, Brother Kadaki. Get rid of Mr. Norton and watch the PPP call a snap election, because that other person won't have enough time to rally support, at least in mass, to beat them. So y'all think about what you're saying.
I think this voice, and y'all listen for the sarcasm, because I think this voice note is wrong. All of those people who are trying to remove Norton already have their support. They got their support already. Why do you think they're doing what they're doing? Because they got their support.
Good morning, Kadaki. Good morning, listeners. With regards to that tax return, I think, in my opinion, I think it's there and it's still active, but many are calling and a few are chosen. The American investors, they're coming into this country, and America is a place that is due tax return every year. And they're going to want to bring that same system into this country. And I think ExxonMobil must even get in tax return from the government. Trust me. It's an American thing. Americans look for the tax return at the end of the year. And they're going to go after the government to get it. It's there. But as usual, local Guyanese have no say in that country. It's all about foreigners. Everything for the foreigners. It's time to get this stink and dirty regime out so Guyana could grow and flourish. The the right way it's supposed to. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you for your voice note. I think it's Miranda Brown saying if not calling a protest and getting 10 and 12 persons, then he's not a popular leader. Well, you show me somebody who call a protest and get more persons than Norton. Right? Show me somebody who called a protest and got more persons than Norton. And that's a popular leader based on your reasoning, right? I don't see anybody in the PNC has called a protest and gotten more persons than Norton. I called a protest and got more persons than Norton. Call me live. Good morning.
Good morning, Kadaki, and good morning to listeners. I want to talk about the teachers. If things continue the way it is, I think teachers will leave, and PPP will achieve their goal, which is to have a population that is uneducated, and that is what all this is my assumption. The teachers will leave if things continue this way, and then the PPP will achieve their goal to get a dunce population that they could rule. Now, in the NIS thing, apart from being lazy, I think there will be more money for them to thief too. Because if they want to give everybody just the equal amount, depends to who put in more and who put in less, but you are getting the same amount. But what do you do with the surplus? Is what they normally do, just thief it out, And what about the U.S. enforcement, law enforcement that is attaching itself now to Guyana? I don't think the PPP like that too much. I think there's a little plus in our corner. Anyway, thank you and good morning to the rest.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think Ghana has become a colony of the US for a while now, I don't know. Because only when the US needs the Guyanese politicians is get cool and start to act and solving problems and stuff. I might be wrong, but some of them behave as though they have already been colonized.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. I don't know for what reason. Why can't we just stop pulling on Mr. Norton? Most of them that are trying to pull on Mr. Norton, they will not go into that position and do anything for us. Those people are selfish. We have a selfish set of opposition. Sorry about that. We have a selfish set of opposition members. And as far as I'm concerned, they make no sense, none whatsoever. We try to have the patience with them and whatever it is. And if I'm to choose, not one of them, Norton is the only person that would make some sense in that fact. They're not giving him the support and the feel is the best thing they're doing. They're calling for Congress and calling for a set of madness, and they don't even know where they're going to get this financial thing from because they don't have anything. The man is simply working with what little he have, and he is not a people's person to be out there giving out all his strategy, his next move and everything, because the PPP is smart. The man already knows what he has to do. And he is working. But because they're not cooperating with the man, they don't know anything that is really going on because of their own lack of cooperation. And them coming to tell John public, but the man this and the man that. They have their own agenda. They don't have us at heart. The people that voted for them. You can see it clearly from the last time we voted for them to now. What are they doing?
Miranda Bong says that the former finance minister of the coalition government is honking his horn. Well, let me tell you, when St. Jordan tells us that my explanation of why you will get tax refund or you may get tax refund is spot on. And he says, thanks to the coalition government, the law was changed to give the taxpayer the right to deduct a year's tax allowance, regardless of the period worked during the year. As such, a person who worked for only 3 months in the year may be eligible for tax refund if the taxes paid were below the year's tax allowance.
right? So he's confirming my explanation there. Miranda Bongen like that. So she said he's blowing his horn. And that's a fine example for me of why the coalition government was superior to what we have now in the PPP. The coalition government was putting in place policies that the people will benefit from. As in this case, it's a good example, right? You remember that one price for a barrel? Previously, you got a little barrel with little food and thing. People got to rummage through it, and then they're going to form their own opinions and dig a heavy duty point and so on. I think the coalition, they say all barrel that is domestic in use must be $4,000 or something. So you know what to expect. That is what governments do. They put policies in place that people understand and are aware of. Then I go to customs guessing what the price is going to be. And some are going to get all a laugh just now. I like to add these things in higher education. Some customs officers are going to pull you aside, or some agent of some customs officer going to pull you aside and say, I could get them off for a low value, you know, but you're going to cost you X amount. I had an encounter like that a few weeks ago. And I said, you know, let a man do his work. Let a man do his work. And when the assessment was finished, and I saw the value assessed, I said, yes, according to my expectation, that's what I'm saying in my mind. This is a fair value. Now compare this value that was assessed. How much bribe was I going to go and give some middleman to get some customs officer to reduce some value? But a lot of people get duped like that because they don't even know what they're dealing with. They're not even educated to the extent to understand what they're dealing with. That is what governments need to do. Put clear policies in place so citizens are well au fait, well educated, well aware of what their rights and responsibilities are. But the PPP doesn't like it like that. The PPP likes confusion because they thrive on confusion. Good. It's 9:15. I gotta go. I got things to do, places to go. Let me see. I think I have another voice note I must play. Please don't send any more voice notes or call my phone. Let's go.
Mr. Kadaki, good morning. I agree with the comment you made just now. Everybody open about Norton. The PPP got a tons as a president and all of them surrounding and supporting him. Why the hell they can't support Norton? All they interested in is being leader.
See, there's how us get into fights with people.
Half of them wasn't be leader, and can't do even half of which is what Norton doing. All they want is fame.
I did say I would rather not take any more calls. It's 9:15. This person was been calling. You could make a case. Send me a text and tell me why I must take a call.
Good morning, Kedaki, and listening viewers.
What's up, man? Tell me why I must take a call.
Mr. Norton was elected. People vote for him and put him there. Are you? Everybody said they go work with you. What is the reason now? What go on now? Only Norton. Work with the man. Work with the man. The aim is to get rid of the riggers, the thieving people, and instead of work. I pull them down. I let me start that alone. Let me start that alone. Now man, brown and Egland, Gomes and all that. I let me start that alone. Mr. Martin for leader. Are you go so? Go on.
And before I leave the program, well done. And before I leave the program, it would be remiss of me not to respond to Miranda Brown. She wants to know who are the ministers of government who are not paying taxes. right? Who are the government representatives who don't pay taxes? Well, for starters, Ali doesn't pay tax, president. The Attorney General doesn't pay tax. The Chancellor doesn't pay tax. The Chief Justice doesn't pay tax. The Auditor General doesn't pay tax. What else you want, Miranda? Didn't I say in that small list there you got a lot of people who don't pay taxes? Well, you heard it for yourself. What else you want me to tell you? Huh? As a cabinet minister, you're supposed to know that. Isn't that so, Miranda? They're going to discipline you for not knowing that. Let me see.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Amsterdam. I don't know for what reason. Why can't we just stop pulling down Mr. Norton? Most of them that are trying to pull down Mr. Norton, they will not go into that position and do anything for us. Those people are selfish. We have a selfish set of opposition. Sorry about that. We have a selfish set of opposition members. And as far as I'm concerned, they make no sense, none whatsoever. We try to have the patience with them and whatever it is. And if I'm to choose, not one of them, Norton is the only person that would make some sense in that party. They're not giving him the support and they feel it's the best thing they're doing. They're calling for Congress and calling for a set of madness, and they don't even know where they're going to get this financial thing from because they don't have anything. The man is simply working with what little he have, and he is not a people's person to be out there giving out all the strategy, his next move and everything, because the PPP is smart. The man already know what he has to do. And he is working, but because they're not cooperating with the man, they don't know anything that is really going on because of their own lack of cooperation. And then coming to tell John, the man this and the man that. They have their own agenda. They don't have us at heart. The people that voted for them. You can see it clearly from the last time we voted for them to now. What are they doing? Thanks.
I'm not sure. I saw Ari Austin making a comment. All platforms except Clams TV and Politics 101 were and still are against Aubrey Norton. Maybe tomorrow we could have that discussion. Why only these two platforms are not against Aubrey Norton? I'll have a good day. Sometimes, Claudine, Tom, what people consider persons are people they can manipulate as they like. We can talk about that tomorrow too. Tomorrow is Free Talk Friday. Y'all have a good day. Love you. Much love. Tonight is Thursday night. It's karaoke and Oli's night at Club Twilight. Come on down. Come down and let's have some fun for once, man. Come. Y'all come support the thing.
Hey fans, it's karaoke and oldies night this and every Thursday at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton. Dance to the magical songs of yesteryear by popular DJs and Cam's Audio. Admission is free. Come out. Let's make memories at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton North. Hey fans, it's karaoke and oldies night this and every Thursday at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton. Dance to the magical songs of yesteryear by popular DJs and Cam's Audio. Admission is free. Come out. Let's make memories at Club Twilight Sideline Dam, Buxton North.